In this lesson, we're going to talk about positioning yourself and your work as premium. You'll see why describing yourself as a web designer or developer traps you in low-value conversations, how to shift your offer from I build websites to I help businesses get results, and why perception is formed long before anyone sees your work. By the end, you'll understand how positioning directly affects pricing, and you'll know how to communicate outcomes instead of features. The most common mistake in this industry is adopting a generic identity. Most people call themselves web designers or developers and then wonder why they're compared on price. When a client can put you in a category with thousands of interchangeable providers, you become a commodity. Commoditization is the act of turning something of subjective or unrealized value into something quantifiable. Physical commodities like corn or steel are available from many producers. There's little differentiation and no one producer can command a price premium. The same thing happens to creative services when you position yourself purely as a website maker. If a client knows dozens of people who can deliver pages, then your only lever is price. When the only difference is hours and pages, the race to the bottom begins. When you frame your work in terms of deliverables, you invite clients to judge you by the cost of those deliverables. The conversation then becomes about how many pages, sections, or animations are included and how long it will take. They ask why your quote is higher than someone else's, and you start justifying it by breaking down your hours, saying this takes this long, this takes... Selling your thinking by the hour is one of the biggest contributors to commoditization. Every time you send an invoice that lists hours and rates, the client picks it apart. An hourly rate signals that your work is a commodity. Premium positioning requires a different mindset. Research in pricing psychology actually shows that customers often use price as a shortcut for evaluating quality. A higher price signals premium features and superior performance. Low prices communicate accessibility and can suggest limitations. According to Gartner, 81% of customers are actually willing to pay more for a superior experience. Benefits are usually what customers care about. And understanding the difference between technical features and benefits is central to any successful marketing message. And it's also the advantages your work brings that ultimately convince people to buy. To position yourself as premium, you must reframe what you actually sell. Stop selling pages and start selling outcomes. When you introduce yourself as someone who builds websites with custom animations, then you actually invite price comparisons. When you introduce yourself as someone who helps businesses attract more leads or increase their conversion rate, you invite a decision about value. Now, think about two opening lines here. One says, I design beautiful websites with modern effects. The other says, I help law firms turn their website into a primary source of new cases. The second line is about results. It implies expertise in funnels, copywriting, and strategy. There's no mention of pages or templates because those are just assumed. You're building those anyway. Clients assume the tool. What they care about is the outcome. This shift from deliverables to outcomes is the foundation of premium positioning. Perception of value is created before anybody sees your work. And it starts with the way you speak. It also has the questions you ask and the clarity with which you articulate your process. Premium services project confidence and certainty. You don't need to sound complex, you need to sound very clear. When a client asks about a timeline, a vague response like "it depends" signals uncertainty. A confident response might be, the process takes about 8 weeks. We begin with research and strategy, move into design and then development. Your involvement is actually pretty critical though, because quick feedback keeps us on schedule. Notice how that answer sets expectations and demonstrates control. Confidence breeds trust, and trust allows you to charge more. If you believe your process and communicate it clearly, clients assume it's worth paying for. Speak the language of business outcomes. And instead of asking about colors and fonts in the first meeting, then ask about revenue goals, lead generation, and conversion rates. Ask what a new customer is worth to them, how many leads they currently get from their website, and what percentage of those leads convert. When you show genuine interest in the client's business rather than just surface design, you actually differentiate yourself from the majority of designers. You become an advisor instead of a pair of hands. Advisors are paid for their judgment, not the hours that they spend looking at a screen or developing software. This is how you begin to create perceived value long before a contract is even signed. So let's look at a simple comparison, right? Weak positioning sounds like this. I build affordable websites for small businesses. Strong positioning sounds like this. I help boutique fitness studios fill their classes by turning their website into a booking machine. The first statement emphasizes price and invites a low budget. And the second one emphasizes a specific niche and a desired outcome. These differences, though, are not being clever with words. They are actually just changing the focus from what you do to what the client gets. Specialization is another lever that moves you away from commodity pricing. So when you try to sell to everybody, you're competing with everybody. And when a client sees a dozen interchangeable options, then there's no room to charge a premium. By narrowing your focus to a specific industry or outcome, you remove yourself from the commodity pool. You're no longer one of many. You become one of a few experts who solve a particular problem. And this scarcity right there creates value. Premium brands don't appeal to everybody. They appeal deeply to someone. Decide who that someone is and orient your message to them. Your pricing strategy itself communicates value. People use price as a proxy for quality. Premium pricing suggests better support, greater results, and superior expertise. Discounting your services to win a project actually signals that your work isn't worth much in their heads, and it trains clients to haggle. Trains them to try to justify your pricing and get you down on a cheaper price. Instead of quoting an hourly rate, price your work based on the impact that it will have on that client's business. For example, if improving conversion rates, for example, could generate an extra $100,000 a year, then a $20,000 investment is easy to justify, right? That's a 5x return on investment. When you frame your price as a fraction of the value that you create, then clients think in terms of return on investment rather than the actual cost of this. And this is the core of value-based pricing. Separate your strategic thinking from your implementation. Most firms actually charge for the doing and give away the thinking. The article on commoditization points out that when strategic counsel is broken out from the offering, the remaining implementation becomes too similar to command a premium. So when you position yourself as a thinker who happens to do great work, you will sell discovery and the strategy as its own product. And then map out the client's goals, research their market, design the conversion funnel, and charge for that plan. Then price the implementation separately. And remember, never justify your price by breaking it down into hours. Once you start explaining, you actually invite a conversation about how the price should change. State your price with confidence and tie it to the results that you actually intend to deliver. Now, to close off this lesson, just remember, premium pricing and positioning is about shifting your identity. Stop thinking like a web designer who sells websites. We're not doing that here. Start thinking like a strategic partner who solves business problems. Break the habit of talking about features, okay? Start talking about benefits and outcomes. And understand that clients buy results, not websites. They don't care about a website. They want money to be generated from that website. They want their business to be better. And you need to recognize that price communicates value and that people are willing to pay more for a better experience. Know that commoditization erodes value and occurs when you offer what everyone else offers. Reclaim the strategic high ground by selling your own thinking and pricing based on value. When you position yourself as premium, you are not just raising your price, you're actually raising the perception of what other people think you do. The results is clients who see you not as a cost to minimize, but actually as an investment to their growth. And that's the mindset shift that turns websites into award level premium work. That's all for this one. I'll see you on the next.